Let's get more, of course, on today's ruling in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg that the former President, Jacob Zuma, cannot continue with his private prosecution of the NPA's prosecutor, the advocate Billy Downer, and the legal journalist, the News24 journalist, Karyn Maughan. Advocate Romeo Nthambeleni is a legal expert. He joins us now. Romeo, good afternoon to you, and thanks for your time. In some ways, it's quite a complicated issue. In the end, what for you was the determining factor? Why did the judge rule in this way?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Stephen and the viewers. I think there was no merit on the matter from the onset, and that's why the full bench has actually given the ruling in the manner that they have actually given earlier today, Stephen, because there was no title to prosecute so far as the certificate that relates to Karyn Maughan, and in relation to Downer, there were decisions that were taken by the Supreme Court of Appeal which the judges were bound in relation to the title to prosecute for Billy Downer.
So in other words, there was settled law, there was no chance of this case ever actually progressing.
Yeah, I remember in the last interview that you and me did together, you probed me quite a lot in relation to the prospect of success in this matter, and I said to you, looking at the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and settled law, it will be practically impossible for the court to actually make a 180-degree turn and give a different ruling in relation to this matter. And then at the end of the day, the facts have actually vindicated that opinion, Stephen.
So we already understand from the Jacob Zuma Foundation that the former President Jacob Zuma will appeal. Presumably the appeal will go the same way. If there's no grounds for this application, there's no grounds for an appeal.
Yeah, that's quite important. And we must state that the appeal must be given by the judges that had the matter. And if they feel that there are no prospects of success in this matter in an appeal, they are going to refuse that leave to appeal. And then after the refusal of that leave to appeal, you're going to be faced with a petition. And then, it is what is actually going to happen. And as I've rightfully said, that the SCA has already looked at this matter and said very clear that the prosecutor has the title to actually prosecute in this matter. So by kicking it to the SCA is not going to actually take the matter any further. And these judges are not going to agree that there is a prospect that a different court will come to a different conclusion.
There's been some commentary around the fact that there are civil court applications and criminal court applications. Criminal courts hear criminal trials, but this was a private prosecution. And if I remember correctly, this was an application in a civil court. Is there anything in all of that? Does all of that matter?
There's no substance in that argument, Steve. I can tell you now, because as it was previously said in one of the judgments, where this debate was raised, the judge said that we have these very same judges that are attending the civil court that come and sit in the criminal court. So you cannot separate the courts in terms of whether this is a civil court or whether this is a criminal court. These are courts, and they use the same judges and they apply the same law, by the way, which is very, very much important. So there's no law that is different in the civil court and there's law that is different in the criminal court, because all the laws are subject to the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. That is what is important.
This is a case about politics. It's about a former president. He's tried to drag a current president into it. But it seems to me there's another issue that we must not lose sight of, which is around whether or not the National Prosecuting Authority, and it's about the very ability, the very capacity of the National Prosecuting Authority to prosecute people. Because if Zuma were to win here, if he were to find a reason to continue with a private prosecution of the person prosecuting him, the NPA is going to find itself, whenever it charges anyone with a criminal act, that person, that suspect, is going to try and privately prosecute the prosecutor to remove that person from his trial. This must be almost an existential issue, threaten the very existence of the National Prosecuting Authority.
No, you're quite correct. It's at the core of the prosecution in South Africa and the duty of the NPA to actually prosecute without favor and without fear, which they derive the power from the Constitution. And the courts will not allow such kind of situation to actually prevail. That is why the judgment that the Supreme Court of Appeal gave clearly indicates this position, Steve, to say that the prosecutor does indeed have the title to actually prosecute. You cannot choose willy-nilly who you want to, to be prosecuted against, is going to set a very bad precedent in all prosecutions, in South Africa. So you're correct.
We're going to see an application for an appeal from the former president. Are we still really quite a long way away then from the actual corruption trial progressing? I mean, I hate to say it, but the Stalingrad approach, and I'm perfectly happy to accept that that's what's being used here, the Stalingrad approach is working.
Yeah, look, we are faced with the leave to appeal, which the leave to appeal might be refused for the right reasons that we have set out in this discussion, and then the petition of the Supreme Court of Appeal, and then fail of that petition, then perhaps then the trial will then start in earnest. Unless after that petition, then there's another petition to the Constitutional Court. So which, like you are saying, is going to be a long waiting game.
Don't forget, Romeo Nthambeleni, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, the legal analyst. Probably not the last time we'll talk on the issue around the former President Jacob Zuma.